Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Shane McInnes, and this is Adventures in History, where we talk about old stuff and and things that are of the past and things that are hopefully a little bit interesting. But enough about me. We also talk about history. Hey, Hunk. Hello, Fid. How's it going? Welcome, welcome. Hope everybody's doing all right. So the show is to talk about history and make fun out of it, and sometimes make fun of it, and just be goofy and have a good time. Uh, yeah. Hey, Cave. How's it going, man? Hope everybody's doing all right. Hope everybody's had a pleasant and profitable week. Hope that the world is treating you well. Uh, Yesterday was kind of funny. Lots of crazy stuff going on. I was speaking with one of my history colleagues yesterday at a respectable distance, and both of us wearing masks. And I asked him how we would cover this in history class in a couple of years. Because yesterday was definitely one of those events where it's going to be remembered. And how people remember that is important. And part of the way people are going to remember that is how teachers recall that event. And just to be honest, I'm not going to be looking at it in a very positive light. I don't usually try to get very political, but I saw so much massive hypocrisy yesterday. I saw people who would have taken up literal arms against other groups of people had they been of different demographic makeup. Stand by while vandalism of federal property occurred by people who, even last year, not so long ago, decried the vandalism of federal property. I saw people doing really dumb stuff for baseless and senseless reasons. So, friggin' Domino's. Deliver the friggin' pizza, Domino's. Come on, man. Ninja Turtles have a saying about that. Yeah, wise men say forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza. I think a guy named Michelangelo said that. All right, so that's enough of that. We can now talk about fun stuff. Woo! Yay! Don't deny this man his pizza. I ate pizza pretty much all week last week. I had pizza 4 nights last week. You ordered the pizza an hour and a half ago? It's been on quality check for an hour. I've been on hold for 17 minutes. Oh. That's crazy stuff. Just friggin' give the man his pizza. Talking on the phone, I don't like it. I wish... I don't know. Yeah, whatever. You have stories about Domino's delivery? We live close enough to one that when we get Domino's, which is not very much common in the history of our marriage, but we always just put the order in online and then go by the place and pick it up because it's only about 10 minutes from our place. So And because of COVID lockdowns, that almost feels like a vacation. Like we get to go out somewhere that's not our house. Someone's getting free pizza tonight. All right. So we're talking about these people, the Han Dynasty, and this is another progression in our newest phase of history, and we're covering history in order, but we're doing it sort of in chunks because there's too many moving pieces to actually do everything chronologically. So the phase that we are currently in stands from about 200 BC to about 1 BC. And now we will actually cross that a little bit in both directions tonight, but the majority of the material that we're talking about comes from that phase. Last week we talked about Confucianism, which is going to be a really big sort of vital part of this new Han Dynasty, or I shouldn't say last week, last Adventures in History episode, episode 37, we talked about Confucianism. But if you missed that episode, don't worry, we're not going to have a test on it, and you don't have to have seen that one to get what's going on here tonight. So longest was 2 hours and 45 minutes delivery. Woo! You gave up and ate the Oreos and milk, which you had in the house, so you could have something in your stomach before going to class. About 10 minutes before you had to leave, the pizza guy showed up. Oh. That's rough. Are we going to learn about the Han Solo dynasty? Just notice my shirt. Hey, there's the Easter egg. I can't always do Easter eggs with shirts and the material, but sometimes I get lucky. Asked to speak to the manager in your best Karen voice. Tonight, we find out if the Han Dynasty really shot first. Well, they actually kind of did. They overthrew the dynasty before them. Sounds like they're having some issues. Maybe the building is on fire. Well, that's a bit rough. But who knows? I'm having tea, and I like Earl Grey tea. But the last time my wife and I went to the grocery store, they didn't have the brand that I like. And I know this is really going to sound like tea snobby, but the brand that I ended up buying is not as good as the stuff that I normally get. And I had to get like this big economy sized box because I'm a cheapskate. And I was just looking at the little label. It's Twinings, the brand that I have now. Yeah, it's hot. It's hot. Trust me. The brand that I got this time was Twinings, and I saw the label on their box, and they were bragging, selling tea for over 300 years. And me being a history guy, I look at that and go, I don't think I would be bragging about that. Because if you're British and you've been selling tea for 300 years, that means you're a colonial jerkface that was probably somehow like stealing tea from people in India and killing them. So I don't know if I would brag, right? Like prospering from the colonialization efforts of the British Empire for 300 years. Colonialism. Yay. But anyway, we're talking about China. And hopefully we never have to hear that very much longer. Getting kind of tired of that. But anyway, we're going to pick up a little bit earlier than the actual Han Dynasty. We're going to pick up with the very end of the previous dynasty called the Qin Dynasty. And I know it's spelled with a Q, but the language of the ancient Chinese people does not directly do a good job of translating into English. And that's okay, because not everything has to directly translate into English. I'm not saying it that way. But when you see the Q, and it's used in reference to a Chinese name, that the Q makes a ch sound like a ch. So it's Qin Dynasty. This is where China actually comes from. 300 years under new management. Oh, we've got a redeem 3, or a rank 3 rather, from Magus. Hey, Magus. Aztecs, Olmecs, and Maya. Is this by how much I like them? Or just how cool they are? I don't know. I'll go with how much I like them. Or how much I would... Oh, how about this? How much I would like to know more about. There's my criteria. If I had to study these, which ones would I want to know more about? And in that particular order, I would have to start with the Olmec. I would love to go out and do archaeological stuff and figure out more stuff about the Olmec. Because we know a lot of decent stuff about them, but there's still some sneaky little things out there about them that we don't know. Olmec, Maya, and then Aztec. I like all of these places. I would love to go see a lot of these cities and places. I've actually got 2 trips that are already sort of itineraried out. One to Belize and the eastern side of Guatemala, and one for the western side of Guatemala, both to go see really cool Maya sites. And of course, I can't go because of COVID and also financial reasons right now, but that's neither here nor there. But that would be cool. I'd love to go down there and see that stuff. Because the Qin dynasty would give the impression of them having distinct lower jaw structures. Well, when I show you this guy in just a second, you remember that one, because this dude's got kind of like a maw going. And lots of people contributing to the Middle Earth Challenge community goal. So if you are a frequent member to the stream, you'll know that I'm a giant Lord of the Rings fan. We have had the first of an ongoing series that I have promised to do for my viewers, in a history of Middle Earth. We did the first one a few weeks ago, back before Christmas break. And I said that I would do one of those every 100 followers. I'm currently at 337 followers. And I knew that collecting followers as a niche history streamer was not necessarily an easy thing to do. And it took me about, a long time to get to 300. So I figured it would be a long time before I got to 400. So what I did was create a community goal. So you can, if you have them and if you are so inclined, you can donate towards the community goal of having another Middle Earth stream. What's a long time? So I started streaming in back in March, and my first followers were all of my students, because I was using basically Twitch as a fill-in for not being able to have actual classes. So my first 60 or so followers were from students and people like my mom who thought that watching me teach would be an interesting thing to do. So when I started streaming this show, I did so at the very end of April. And so it took me from April to December. So it was April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. It took me April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. It took me 7 months to get about 220 followers. So if we divide that in half, that means it took me about almost 4 months to get 100 followers. So if I stay on that same trajectory, it would have been roughly the middle part of March before we got another viewer request Middle Earth stream. So this will hopefully accelerate it. How far are we? Let us check. And hey, Joey, welcome. We are almost halfway there. And it says that there are 14 days left, by the way, but don't worry about that. If we don't get to the goal at the end of that 14 days, I'll take however much we have and then make a new goal of however much is the difference. So there's that. So, yeah, streamers have a mixed bag of luck when it comes to getting followers. Some people have thousands and thousands of followers, and I don't, and I don't care. Like, I'm not doing it just for the follows, right? But I don't even know really where I was going with that. I guess what I was trying to say is, what are you doing? What are you doing? Go away. Go away. Well, now I've completely lost my train of thought again. Anyway, some people get followers really, really fast. So they can burn through like 100 followers in like 2 or 3 weeks. I just can't. It's not my thing. I'm a niche streamer. I don't have anything really flashy to show off. I'm definitely not the easiest to look at. So, there we go. Another rank 3. Narya, Ninya, and Vilya. So these are the 3 rings of the Elven Kings that were made in the Second Age. Narya is the red ring, or the ring of fire, which is trusted to originally the elf king Círdan, who was the lord of the Grey Havens, but when the wizards showed up, the wizards, of course, start moving around, and in the Third Age, Círdan gave Narya to Gandalf. So Gandalf has Narya. We don't know that he has Narya until the very end of Lord of the Rings, in the scene where Frodo and Bilbo are getting on the ship to go. Ninya is the white ring, the ring of adamant, which is held by Galadriel. Narnia, Kenyan, Shania. Vilya is the blue ring, or the ring of the air, and it is technically the most powerful of the 3, and was held by Elrond. So if I'm having to choose which ones I would like them, and the rings are kind of fickle. They tend to preserve more than they are, powers and all that fun stuff. So anyway, I don't really know how to rank those. Like, which one would I want? Probably. I mean, I don't know. I guess that tells a lot about me, huh? I don't know. I'd probably pick Narya. I don't really want to be the strongest guy. That's the one that everybody aims for, right? So probably Narya, then maybe Vilya, then Ninya. But I like Galadriel a lot. That seems like I'm kind of dissing her. But that's okay. I'll say Narya, Vilya, Ninya. There we go. Okay, and I've missed a lot of chat. Doesn't matter anymore. You answered my question about 15 minutes ago. Back to the chins. I am Fire Dorito. Oh, flames. Maybe if I tried red lipstick? Perhaps. I like the smart words. The driver's on the way. Woot. Vern is here but not here. Okay. So, Schrodinger's Vern. We will recognize your existence, but only if we open the Vern and see what's inside. That might kill the Vern. We probably should not kill the Vern. That's probably a bad idea. Let's stay away from killing folks. We don't. Nobody needs to get killed tonight. Back to the Qins. Okay, so the Qin dynasty was put together and started by this guy, who was the first actual emperor of China, and his name is Qin Shi Huang. And he's a giant jerk, and he has a lot of really big work projects that he sort of forces the people into. And we've talked about him a little bit already, so I'm not going to give like the full rundown. If you want to know more about this guy, go check out some of the earlier streams in the VODs about China. But he also has a pretty bad policy of taxation, and people are really, really, really not liking this guy. So towards the end of his reign, there are a lot of people that are interested in sort of getting rid of him. But he was a really powerful leader. He had a really big army, and people sort of understand that going up against him would be a bad move. You wouldn't say nobody. Maybe nobody here though. I don't want to get into the ethics of that. What was the name of his ring? He would have one of the 9 rings. He would probably end up being a Nazgul. This guy's kind of a jerk. But he dies, is what happens to everybody. And a lot of the people towards the end of his rule had sort of started acting out. They stopped paying some of their taxes. They had, some of these big families of China had taken up some of the old titles that they used to have under the previous dynasty of the Zhou dynasty. And Qin Shi Huang was facing some quasi-early rebellion stages already. But when he dies, his son takes over. His son is this guy, and it's hard to find good pictures of this guy. This one's actually not from the time that he ruled. It's from a little bit later. But his name is Qin Shi. And he's just not a good ruler. He tries to be his dad, but he doesn't have the power of his father. He tries to put down some of these early stages of rebellion by increasing taxation, because that's exactly what everybody wants, right? If you're already mad at the Qin dynasty for taxing the devil out of you, the way to make you behave is to tax you more, right? And just tax them into oblivion and they'll shut up and go away. Dies and becomes he dies and becomes. Well, see, the Nazgul weren't dead. They were just wraiths. They had worn the rings so long that they had slipped over into Wraith World. Trump talking about the Han Dynasty. Hunk, I love you, brother. I don't know if I can do Trump right now. I guess I could because you asked for it. Let's keep the Trump impressions, at least for this particular episode, a little bit to the minimum. But Trump talking about the Han Dynasty. Let me actually hold on to that because it doesn't really make a lot of sense right now, just thematically speaking. But I'll get back to you. The events of yesterday have me in a bit of a funk, and I have a lot of words that I want to say, and as this is not necessarily a political platform, I will refrain from it. I also try not to curse on stream, and I don't know if I could really describe what I feel about that right now without saying lots of the potty words. So no. We'll get back to it when we get to the Han Dynasty, which is not too far away. So Qin Shi, not a good guy, kind of a jerk, and the people that were starting to talk about rebellion when his dad was in power just decide, yeah, let's go ahead and go along with it. So they rebel. And the guy leading this rebellion is a guy named Lu Bong. Yeah. Gotta love this guy. And Liu Bang is going to be initially fighting against another guy named Xiang Yu. Yeah, let me do it like this. Okay, and now let me get Liu Bang back. Okay, so we're stuck in this position. Chen Ershi dies. The leadership of the Qin dynasty is going to fall to this guy named Xiang Yu, who is sort of like just a regional king dude that has to. The guy from that movie Red Cliff. Not the same Xiang Yu. No, this particular event is about 400 years or so before the Battle of Chibi. Tax your way out of a hole, right. You're getting visions of Street Fighter. Xiang Yu versus Liu Bang, fight! Well, that's kind of what happens. So, Xiang Yu is like the remnant of the Qin dynasty. And, I got pictures of this guy. So that's Chen Ershi. By the way, I'm kind of light on the pictures tonight. It's hard to find photos of these people. This is Xiang Yu, the handsome devil he. So he is going to basically try to take over the little home territory of the Qin, which is actually called the state of Chu. So the Qin lived in Chu, but we don't need to get all that far into it. But basically, Xiang Yu wants to be the guy that's going to fill the void of the Qin dynasty, and Liu Bang also wants to be the guy that's going to fill the void of the collapse of the Qin dynasty. So both of these guys want to be emperor. And the Qin capital of Xiangyang had fallen to Liu Bang, and the last of the Qin emperors had been forced to go away. So now we're like in full-out civil war, and these guys are both sort of like the big leading contenders. And when we say big contenders in China, we mean really big armies. The population of China has always been pretty high, even back into the ancient world. We're talking about armies that had tens of thousands of soldiers in them. And this is going to come to a head. So this big battle between Xiang Yu and Liu Bang, or this string of battles, is going to come to a head at a particular battle called Gaixia, which happens in 202 BC. And in that particular battle, Liu Bang's forces are going to decisively beat Xiang Yu, and that leaves Liu Bang as the uncontested leader of China, and his family is going to establish a new dynasty, which is, boom, the Han Dynasty. And he is going to take the throne name Gaozu. Throne names are a pretty common scenario where you have kind of your given name, but then when you become emperor, you take a throne name. Finish him. Battle. Yeah, finishing move. Gaixia. Kill you with an army of 25,000 people. So we have Liu Bang, who is going to be the emperor, and he establishes this new dynasty. Would you hush it? I don't want to run up. Let me just run the updates. Maybe my computer is like, hey, you should update this. Hey, and I'm like, shut up. I don't care about the flipping updates. Go. Ugh. Goodness gracious. Don't run the updates. Does it mean something? Does what mean something, Vern? I mean, everything means something, I guess. But does what mean something? No. Oh, Gaozu. Yeah, it means like big father. High forefather. There we go. Imperial temple name typically used for Chinese emperors who founded a particular dynasty, like the Han Dynasty. There we go. The power of Google. Gotta love the power of Google. So, we have a new emperor, and he looks like this guy. Boom. There we go. This is Gaozu, who's really named Liu Bang. And what's crazy about this guy is he started off kind of as a low-level nobody, and he just was really good at what he did, and was quite capable and quite sneaky. We don't really need you. We have Google. You came here for my rugged good looks. Man, should I start? No, I won't do that. We won't go there. But he is a master at it. I guess he looks Along. Kinda. I can see that. I doubt he starred in as many action movies. Anyway, Shane OnlyFans account. Oh no. Oh no. I could start one ironically. No, I'm not even going to do that. No, I'm not even going to do that. That would be bad. You've been saying that from the get-go? Just like me taking pictures in the adventure hat in historic places. I think OnlyFans is a little bit too risque. I think if I were going to do something like that, I would probably just go with Patreon. Nobody wants to see any of this. Shane playing with his toys. Oh, so dirty, bad touch. Oh, that's horrible. Sounds like the gender reversal Monty Python sketch. Yes, could very well be for her. Oh, man. All right, so we have Liu Bang, and he is the emperor, and he is the emperor of the Han Dynasty. So, first off, I guess, what do you got to do? Well, again, Liu Bang, he's kind of just a guy, and he started off as this sort of like really low-level regimental commander in the Qin army. He was not from necessarily the biggest and most famous background. His family wasn't really some sort of giant, well-known clan inside of China. But now he's the leader of the rebel army, and now he's the emperor. So how does it work? So first things first, when he becomes emperor, you gotta lower the taxes. The taxes are just too high. Like the rent in New York is just too dang high. So he reduces taxes, and he reduces them quite a bit. He also reduces forced labor conscription, which was a big thing under the Qin dynasty. They wanted to build all of these giant buildings and construction works and stuff. So he reduces that. He also eliminates debt slavery, which was a big problem. The thing about taxes is that if you don't pay your taxes, you end up going into debt. And under the Qin dynasty, and even under some of the warring states and Zhou periods, a lot of people had ended up in slavery because they could not pay their tax debt. And the government sort of used that as a way to conscript people into their armies or into these big work gangs. And he's like, nah, let's get rid of that. Not the same Liu Bang. Shane's OnlyFans account picks up, you could expand your brewery and winery into a distillery. All the booze is for her. Yeah, all the booze is me. Not the same guy. You might be thinking Lu Bu, maybe? The Liu family is still around, though. Anyway, So he's going to reduce taxes. He's going to reduce forced labor. Yeah, that's exactly how the Qin dynasty had such a big army. They were forcing people to fight into it. He gets rid of debt slavery. And we talked about this when we talked about Confucianism. There was a Confucius scholar at the time, this guy named Lu Jia. And Lu Jia approached the emperor and said, "Hey man, you need some religion and some good rules and some philosophy to go with your new dynasty." And Liu Bang responded, "I have conquered this empire from the back of a horse," meaning I've just beaten everybody up, and that's how I became emperor. What else do I need? And Lu Jia goes, "Are you going to rule the empire from the back of a horse?" Meaning, are you going to hold on to what you have by perpetually beating the crap out of people? And Liu Bang was like, "Yeah, that's a kind of a good point. Maybe I could use some help and some guidance and some instructions." So he sends Lu Jia off, and Lu Jia comes back with this sort of new, not new ideas, but new sort of consolidation of Confucianism. And Liu Bang goes, "This is it," and he adopts Confucianism as the official religion of China. And he's also going to move the capital. He moves the capital to a new city called Chang'an, which means perpetual peace, because he's like, this is the end of it. We're just going to be like, everything's going to be cool and peaceful now. Wait, new rulers that actually reduce taxes? Exactly. Yeah, I know. It's crazy, isn't it? Well, remember, he was a lower class kind of guy, so he was feeling the brunt of this kind of stuff. Lud Jia. No, not Lud Jia. The guy's name is Lu Jia. Like that. Only for the rich? No, it wasn't for the rich. It was for everybody. He lowered the taxes for everybody. I've seen you drink. You should be fine. What matters is that all of the scissor roses of cirrhosis. I don't know. What matter is that all of that cirrhosis. I don't know what you're saying, KP. You should do everything from the back of a horse. Well, we learned that in Witcher you can do things on the back of a unicorn, but that's other topics, right? I will bathe from the back of a horse, and I will eat my supper from the back of a horse. Anyway. You were trying to sound hickish. Okay, challenge accepted. I guess you hit that one on the head, because I have no idea what the devil, what you were even trying to say. And hey, Life of Mamba, welcome. I don't know if I actually said hello to you. Hey, how's it going, man? Hey, Motivic, welcome. So this might be a time to bring in the earlier requested Trump. We'll do Trump as Liu Bang for the Han Dynasty, talking about his accomplishments, because everybody knows that Trump likes to brag about this accomplishments. "I lowered taxes for everybody. Everybody was saying the taxes are too high, so I came in, I lowered the taxes. Everybody was debt slavery, so bad. I did the greatest thing. I eliminated the debt slavery. I did that myself. All me. No debt slavery anymore. Everybody, thank you. Go home to your families. No forced labor. No more big buildings. We've got this Confucianism. I know Confucius. This guy he's a very, very smart guy. Lots of good ideas, but not as good as mine. But it was my idea to tell him to you all, so we're going to do the Confucius, lots of the Confucius stuff. Go read your books if you can read." So there's Liu Bang as Donald Trump bragging about his accomplishments. So, honk if you were still around. There you go, brother. Okay, so words. Yeah. Okay. We have the greatest of chins. I will not try that one, dearest. Okay. So, all right. Liu Bang. He's a cool guy. So what does he do? Well, he rules from about 202 to about 195. But he's not done yet. And by the way, the capital that he picks, Chang'an, is actually right about here. It's up in the northern part of China, right around this region. And there are a group of people up here that had been causing some trouble for the Chinese. They're called the Xiongnu. And if you saw the last episode of last phase, we talked about the Xiongnu a little bit. But all we need to know for right now is that they are a big sort of conglomerate empire that sits on the northern borders of China. They have a pretty big territory under their control. And they have a lot of horseback soldiers. And the Qin dynasty had tried to go conquer the Xiongnu and had not had a lot of luck doing so. And in fact, one of the big work projects that the Qin dynasty was pushing was a border wall to keep the Xiongnu out. And when Liu Bang takes over, he's going to decide that it's also his job to sort of get rid of these troublesome people up in the north. And he is going to put some people more or less in charge of this region and sort of declare, this sort of military border zone, right? So I'm going to put this guy up here who's one of my retainers, and he's going to sit up on this border, and his job is to make sure that the Xiongnu don't come in. But that guy that he puts up there ends up defecting from China and going over to the Xiongnu and allying with the leader of the Xiongnu, this guy named Modu Chanyu. So now we have a new big war, because now it's Liu Bang versus Modu Chanyu. And Liu Bang thinks, they're a lot of them are, curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal. Exactly. Doesn't Trump hate China? I would think that based on everything that he said, we don't know how he actually feels, because it depends on the day. He blames them for everything and then brags about being friends with their leader, so who knows. Anyway, so we've got the new Han dynasty of China versus Modu Chanyu and his Xiongnu Empire. And Liu Bang gets a little bit big for his britches, and he gets back on the back of that horse and goes back up there to the north, and he thinks that he's going to ride up there and just kind of beat these guys up real quick and then come back home and be home by dinner. And it doesn't really go that well. They're first going to invade this border zone that Liu Bang had set up to act as the sort of military buffer state. And there's a big battle in that area. This big battle called the Battle of Baideng. And it doesn't go very well at all. There are a couple of different versions of the battle in the history sources. Neither of them have the Chinese actually winning. One of them say that the Imperial forces got captured in the city and were surrounded and laid siege to. And another group says that they just got defeated at the battle and then had to sort of sue for terms. But either way, Liu Bang has to approach the Xiongnu and basically beg for his forgiveness, ? How do you handle this where you're the empire of China and you're supposed to be big and powerful, and you go up to fight these people that you think you're going to beat the mess out of, and then they end up beating you? How do you handle this? Well, one of the interesting parts of this story is that one of the accounts says that Liu Bang bribed Modu Chanyu's wife. So much of that in history. Yes, exactly. Game of Thrones. That's how you win. Fight fraud. Blame it on Antifa. So it seems like in one of these stories that Liu Bang is sending sort of discreet messages to Modu Chanyu's wife. And the messages effectively say, don't you have a nice young son, this strapping young lad. Wouldn't it be really neat if your son married my daughter, like the princess of China? Wouldn't that be cool? And according to one of the versions of the story, Modu Chanyu's wife convinces Modu Chanyu to let Liu Bang go under the promise that Modu Chanyu's son, who is the prince of the Xiongnu Empire, gets to marry the princess of China. And that's actually what happens. So it might be that this was made up as a bit of a fiction to try to save some face for Liu Bang. Like, oh, he was surprised, and then he used his resources to get out of the situation. Or it could be that he got his butt kicked and he had to promise whatever he could get rid of to get out of the situation. So probably somewhere in the middle, right? You don't want to come out and say, hey, our brand new emperor just got his rear end kicked by those guys up there on the step. That's probably not the best PR move that early in a term, right? Telenovela stuff, bribing the wife. Right. The oldest political negotiation, the arranged marriage of children. Right. So here's the thing, though. This actually turns into an established process called AiH, where the leaders of China have to sort of send a stream of their daughters up into the Xiongnu for about the next 60 years. And this is going to be a part of this annual or somewhat seasonal bribing process where China has to send tribute, sometimes in the form of money, but sometimes literally in the forms of their daughters, up to the Xiongnu to keep them from invading China. And it's like, look, you get an endless supply of princesses, and you slap China, and you're like, you could fit so many princesses in this thing, right? But this is an interesting position because initially it's pretty clear that the Han Dynasty is not as strong as it likes to think it is. Now, over time, it's going to become clear that this tribute and the process of AiH is not necessarily to keep the Xiongnu from invading because they're more powerful, but it's to keep them from invading because it would just be too much of a nuisance, right? So as the Han Dynasty coalesces its power and becomes more unified and centralized, it doesn't want to pay off the Xiongnu because they're afraid of them. It's just easier than having to go up there and fight them, right? You get what I'm saying? The princess conveyor belt. Non-lethal virgin sacrifice. There we are. Just ship them up north. But again, this policy of AiH lasts for the next 60 years. So this is much, much longer than Liu Bang is alive. But let's talk about political changes. Sacrifice brings it. No. Put the baby goat away. We don't need the baby goat yet. We don't need a bronze bowl. We don't need the stone knife. We don't need the baby goat. All right. So what are we going to do? No, we're not going to party. None of that. No. Sorry. I mean, if you have the goat and you're going to have a barbecue and you want to make dinner for everybody, let's wait until the pandemic is over, and then we can all hang out and have some goat. I could make a mean Indian dish. Cave, you almost got me. You almost got me to shoot tea out of my nose with that last one. Oh, goodness. Ooh. Anyway. Okay. So, Liu Bang. And let's actually... by the way, Liu Bang dies in 195, but his Han Dynasty is going to continue on for quite some time, the next 400 plus years. Anyway... Mamba, I don't know what you want to do with that goat, by the way. So let's just... Okay. you all continue preparing the goat, I guess. Let's talk about the Han Dynasty from a political standpoint. Not only did Liu Bang do all that stuff, but the Han Dynasty itself is actually going to revolutionize a lot of the stuff, sort of the day-to-day operation of the Chinese government. And one of the things that it was really focused on doing, and this is, again, partially because Liu Bang has a lot of good advisors, but it's also because he came from this sort of lower status and he understood a lot more about how the sort of average Chinese family lived and operated. And one of the things that the Han Dynasty tries to do is redistribute land from the really, really big families of China down to the smaller landowners. And they want to make, instead of a few really, really, really big land-owning families, they want to have a lot of small land-owning families. And they are going to do this, first off, because they think that it's going to make them more taxes. There was a sort of understood rule that nobles didn't really have to pay taxes as much. So if you have a lot of people that are kind of your lower class workers, but they have farms that they can operate, they can make money, that's going to make them taxers. There we go. Enough for the entire class. There we go. Red is now officially sus. So here's the thing about these smaller farms. When they started dividing the farmland up, they made the farms too small. And because they're trying to just get more farmers, like the number one goal here is to have as many farmers as possible. A lot of the farms that they kind of cut up are barely large enough to supply a family with food, right? So they kind of have an algebra to this, like how many acres does it take to supply a family? That's literally the minimum number that we can give them. But of course, that doesn't take into account things like bad years, bad crops, blights, lack of rainfall. So these little farmers have barely enough to get by on just for food, and that means they don't actually have a lot of surplus left over to sell. So this idea to get people farmland is a good one, but in practice, what ends up happening is that the taxes, even though they are reduced, are still out of reach of the average person, because the margins between sustenance farming and taxation border right up against your total outcome. So you're not going to be able to save money. You're not really going to be able to tuck money away for a bad season. You're going to be like shoestringing your budget for the rest of time, right? So Stalinistic agricultural algebra as applies to Ukraine, more or less. That's actually not that bad of a metaphor or of a comparison. So here's what ends up happening. Because the local nobility did not have to pay these taxes, and these poor people were living on shoestring budgets, what ends up happening is that the nobles will purchase the land given to these small families from the families. And they make this deal, right? So the deal is you get to stay on your plot of land, and instead of paying 20% of taxes to the empire, you can pay 17% of taxes to me. So instead of paying taxes to them, you basically pay tribute to me as a sharecropper working the land that you used to own. But this creates a gap, and it creates a livable space for a lot of these people. And because the nobles weren't paying taxes, what ends up happening is that everybody gets this land from the Han Dynasty, and then they sell it to a local noble to sort of get out from under this new structure. But of course, what that means is you've recreated the scenario that you just left from, right? So the nobles, if they don't want to, don't have to let you work that land. So you can sell it to them, and then, you farm this for 10 years or so. But then your son says something off color and ticks the noble off. You don't own the land anymore. So the noble's like, oh, you're out. You're gone. You're done. Yeah, it's a gigantic tax loophole. It's exactly what it is. It's this big system where the Hans were trying to give land to the people and create a taxable base, and people just fell into the loophole. Yeah, KP, that's what I was trying to say. Like, it really does line up pretty well with that particular metaphor or comparison you brought up there. So what we end up with is, once again, a very powerful noble class and an empire that's not making a lot of tax money. So how do you handle this? Well, the Han Dynasty comes up with a new sort of scheme. And that is, instead of putting these powerful families in positions in the government, why don't we just use our family, right? We're going to get Cousin Bobby and Cousin Jimmy and Cousin Earl Ray and Cousin Ray Earl and Ray Ray, and we're going to give all of them our government positions. And they'll be honorable and loyal to us because they're part of our family, right? Everybody loves the family. We're all part of the family. And this is starting to sound a little bit like the mafia discussion from Tuesday, right? Cousin Earl Ray. Yeah, nepotism. But nepotism on an imperial scale. Right. Anyway, so you put all of your family members in the positions of power, and that means your family is still going to be able to dominate these rich noble clans because they're not in the powerful government positions. They've never watched Dynasty. Right. So that works for a while. For the early part of the Western Han Dynasty, this putting nobles into high positions is going to work a bit. And the Han Dynasty doesn't necessarily have this overwhelming amount of power. However, there are going to be some benefits to this, in that when things go bad, you can always hopefully count on your family member, right? Oh, Dynasty. By the way, I really enjoy Always Sunny, Life of Mamba. We have a great gift from my wife this year was well, I guess it would have been last year because we're 7 days into the new year, was the DVD box sets of seasons like 3 through 14. So I am so excited about watching the rest of those episodes again. I don't have Hulu, and I don't really want to get Hulu because I don't know what else Hulu would give me. But anyway, it all lined up the right way, so I can watch Always Sunny whenever I want to. We're most of the way through season 3 right now. It's a fun show. Family with benefits. That's the idea. They're going to be loyal to you. They're going to call up the soldiers when you ask them to. They're going to make sure that you do get tax money. But even so, the income is cutting down because of this tax loophole farmer buying thing. So what the Han Dynasty is going to do is look for other ways to make money. And this is when we get something that is hugely important to global world history. And the Han Dynasty starts hearing about stuff going on over here. People like the Seleucid Empire and the Greco-Bactrian Empire, which we'll talk about next Thursday. Right around the 190s or so mark, the Han Dynasty realizes that there is this extensive trade network in the rest of Asia. And they start sending feelers out through this particular region right here. and they pop out over in Tajikistan, which of course everybody knows where Tajikistan is, but they tap into that big trade network that had been running since Alexander the Great, with all those Greek people and the Parthians and the Greco-Bactrians and the Seleucids, the Persian royal road, and the Han dynasty goes, oh, this is our moneymaker. This is it, because everybody already liked silk, and the Han dynasty as a government could control trade. So imports and exports were something that were run by the emperor, and this was how they were going to get their money, right? This was going to be their moneymaker. And this trading network that they set up is literally the Silk Road. And this is when the Silk Road fully becomes an existent thing. Trade networks running from as far away as southeastern China that tie into networks that go over here into Central Asia, that tie into stuff that goes all the way up here into Europe. So this is the Silk Road. And the Han Dynasty loves this idea because this is going to be able to pour money into their coffers. And this is how they're going to keep trade moving, because they can control it directly. They can protect it. They can control what comes in and out. They can set the rates for things. Silk Road, oh yeah, this is the good stuff, all right? The origin of Made in China. Well, this is going to be their thing, right? And it's not just, silk. It's also other things. But this is going to tie China into the larger world of Asian and European and African trade. And for the first time in world history, we have a truly pan-continental trade system that connects basically everything that we can see here on Earth into one big network. And I want to pause for a moment and just explain how crazy that is. We're still in the 2nd century BC, well, the 3rd century BC at this point. That's crazy, right? We have something 2,300 years ago that is the basis of something that we're still effectively using right now, right? Globalism for the known world, pretty much. Pretty much. This is a big moment in history, and one that we should not just pass over lightly. So I did want to take a moment and explain, the Silk Road was something new. It was something that added to existing stuff, but the scope of what's just happened under the Han Dynasty's rule is enormous. And ideas are going to flow along this road, and military advances along this road, but also stuff like the plague, right? The sicknesses of the ancient world, and I know this is a bit sort of tone deaf right now considering COVID started in China, but evidence of different outbreaks move along these trade routes. And because of this, if somebody gets sick over in Spain, that can get all the way over to China now and affect effectively, 80% of the global population at this point. So this is a big moment, and we should not take it for granted. All right. That being said, let's get to the title for tonight. A butterfly flaps its wings, and halfway across the world, an empire is born, right? Okay. So the name of tonight's episode is Talk Wudi to Me, which actually came from me watching Scrubs recently. One of the mods in the channel, Mac in a Lab Coat, his favorite show is Scrubs, and I've been sort of toying around with watching it again. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen all of the episodes, but one of them, there's this guy, and he's in a coma, and one of his final wishes is to hear Talk Dirty to Me playing once a day. And there's this great little scene where they end up having to sing it to him. And anyway, long story short, I was like, Wudi. Oh, and there was the title for the show. So I expected you to say we shouldn't take it for granted. That being said, let's take it for granted. No. Yeah, I see. I haven't seen any of. Well, okay, I've seen maybe 2 or 3 of those, and I didn't care for them very much. That's the much later seasons. I don't know how much of it I have seen though. So I'm watching through it. Every now and then I'll get into a kick and I'll just watch a TV show by myself, which is something I don't do very often. But because it's just like 23 minutes long, if it's on the weekend and I'm eating lunch, I can just watch an episode and then go about my business. But so I'm not even out of season 1 yet. But anyway, so that's where that came from. But talk dirty to me. Anyway, so Han Wudi, whoop whoop, Arcadian, coming in with the donation that has put us over the halfway point. 75,510 viewer points. Well done. Cheers, Arcadian. And thanks for the donation and welcome. How's it going? Anyway, who is this guy? Well, he takes over in 141 and he rules to 87. So right off the bat, that's a lot of years. And it's true. This guy's really flipping old when he dies. But he is one of the most successful emperors in Chinese history. And here's the thought. So he takes over as emperor in 141. And at this point, the Han Dynasty's trade network had been set up. They were making a lot of money of it. And China was trading with a lot of people around their borders. People over here in northern China, over here in Korea. They were also trading with people down here in southeastern China, even some of the islands over here. And they were trading with those people, and they were taking those goods and putting them on the Silk Road, and then trading those with people further away. And here's what Wudi comes up with. What if, instead of being the middleman for stuff like goods from Korea, what if we just took over Korea? Right? Then we would control it directly, and we wouldn't have to pay a premium for it. And we could sell it for the same price, but keep the benefit because that's ching, 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 more money. And Han Wudi is going to be the guy. So let me show you a picture of his kingdom when he took it over. That's still Liu Bang. Photos. You guys know that I love maps. All right, so this is about 190 or so. So when Emperor Wu takes over, this is pretty much what his kingdom is going to look like. It's pretty nice. It's a big chunk of territory. It's the biggest that China had been under a stable empire. Because nothing bad ever happens from military action in Korea. Oh. Well, I guess if you want Samsung stuff, nothing. Why don't we go take over Korea? Because I don't particularly enjoy Asian food. Oh, moose. There we go. Why take over a country if you're... Anyway, so when Wudi takes over, China's nice and powerful and big, but this guy is going to go on a conquering spree. He is incredibly powerful. He is incredibly successful. First thing, he's already sort of on the border of the Korean peninsula. At that point, his border sat right about here. Why not go ahead and just take him over? So he goes into Korea and he beats these people up, and he's going to establish some tribute territories. This is where we're going to get some of the earliest of the 3 kingdoms of Korea. And at the very, very end of this phase, we'll actually talk about the establishment of the 3 kingdoms of Korea, including the Goguryeo, which are going to end up being one of the largest ones. But Moose, we could bring them the joy that is Domino Pizza. Or the disappointment. Seoul has a fantastic Domino's, according to friends of mine. I would love to go to South Korea. I actually have a friend that I was in my master's program with that teaches English over in Korea. Uh, and I think it would be really cool to go visit Korea, but also I haven't seen that friend since we graduated. Um, Really good scholar. Good mind on her. We have to strategically provide Japan with KFC. Oh, that's already done. Uh, and some Koreans from. Oh yeah, because there's that big Southern Baptist presence. Okay, so I want to tell a story, but it would be I'd have to give away a free adventure hat. Never mind, we won't do it anyway. So Goguryeo Korea thanks Wudi. He sets it up. He demands tribute. He goes back and he decides, all right, so now we've got north. What about south? Hey, Bloss, how's it going? Oh, the adventure hat has been summoned. All right, so when you summon the adventure hat, I put on the adventure hat and I tell a story. So I was 3 days away from going to Korea for free. Completely all expenses paid. But Bloss, no worries. No, we don't get gold stars for coming in on time. We're currently talking about the Han Dynasty. We're talking about this guy named Wudi, who's expanding and kicking everybody's rear end. But we're pausing now for an adventure hat story. So I had gone to Jordan. Beautiful place. I absolutely adore Jordan. I would love to go back there. But about 4 days before we left Jordan, you wanted a gold star. Oh, sorry. I mean, you can, if you want a gold star, you can have a gold star, Moose. Moose gets a gold star. There we go. So about 4 days before we left, we were eating at this. We were at the hotel. We were staying at the hotel, and the hotel had a kitchen. And the family that owned the hotel offered to cook dinner for myself and our group, which was a very generous offer. And I really appreciate it. And the food was great. But there was some miscommunication. I don't speak very good Arabic, and they didn't speak very good English. And what I thought was cooked cabbage turned out to just be marinated with olive oil and salt cabbage. And I don't know if you know very much about the Jordanians, but one of the things that they use a lot as fertilizer, because Jordan is not necessarily the most fertile place, is their sewage. So you don't eat raw vegetables in Jordan if you are not from Jordan. But I did. And I got explosively sick. And the plan was that I was supposed to come home from Jordan. I was going to come home on a Wednesday. I was going to have Thursday, Friday, and Saturday here. And then Sunday, I was going to get on a plane and go to South Korea. And it was going to be pretty decent stuff. But what ended up happening was, for the last 3 days we were in Jordan, I was having the worst explosive stomach events that I've ever had in my life. And I got home, and I even tried to go to work that Thursday with jet lag, and after not keeping anything down for about 4 days. And my boss, upon me walking in the door, saw me and was like, no, you have to go to the doctor. So I went to the doctor, and the doctor did not want to release me. He wanted to force me to take fluids right there. And I don't like needles. I turn into a big baby. And he basically told me that he wasn't really going to let me go unless I promised to go across the street to the gas station and drink 2 Powerades. And it turns out that while I was in Jordan, I got an intestinal infection. This wasn't food poisoning where you get like some stuff in your stomach and then it flushes out. Oh no. There were little bugs that had taken over my intestines and they were not pleased. And I had to do all of the fun tests that you can think of. And I even had to go back about 6 months later to do all of the fun tests again to make sure that I did not come down with Guillain-Barré syndrome, because the particular type of bacteria that was living in my intestines had a small chance of triggering Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a nervous system thing that you do not want to mess with. So that's why I didn't get to go to Korea, because I could not hold food down. I was sick as a dog. In that span of about 7 days, I think I ended up losing 13 pounds in about 7 days. Rough stuff. I don't want to ever do that again. So there's one of the better adventure hat stories that I probably have. Better, of course, being somewhat subjective, depending on what you would expect from an adventure hat story. Anyway, don't eat the uncooked vegetables in Jordan. Almost dying sounds great. I've got some other ones that I almost died on, and I've told a couple of those. Anyway, so Han Wudi, Emperor Wu. Oh, I've got a picture of this guy. I should show you this guy. Emperor Wu. He looked like this. Check that guy out. He's got cool shoes. And big fancy sleeves. This is why no one eats Jordan almonds. I actually really like those. Those things are everywhere, by the way. Everywhere. Emperor Pooh. I was not the great mighty Pooh. This one neat trick will make you lose 13 pounds in 7 days. Oh, Joey. I would not recommend it, man. I was so weak. It was horrible. It was horrible. And a big hat. Oh, yeah, the big hat with like the beads in the front that designate I'm cool, you shouldn't look directly at me. Oh, yeah. Anyway, so Emperor Wu. He takes over, beats up the Korean people, and then he's like, what about southern region? And he conquers everything as far down here as the Ha Viet, which were a group of people that today are in the modern day country of Vietnam. So he has taken over now all of this. And he's like, why don't we keep going? And he's going to start expanding along these trade routes. And his idea here is the more of this trade route we control, the more money we can make. Yes, Korea and Vietnam, indeed. Hey, Chaotic Looney, welcome, welcome. What a wonderful hat. Wonderful, because those two are so great to fight for. He beat them both and consolidated them into his empire. This guy's really good. He's very successful. And to be fair, at that time, Southeastern Asia was still fairly simplistic when it came to the levels of technology that they had. They had only recently come into the Metal Ages. The biggest group of people that were established cultures and civilizations were way down here in the southern part of Southeastern Asia, and they were called the Funan, which would go on to be people that are related to people today in Cambodia, Angkor, other Southeastern Asian countries, but we're not talking about them, and I could chase rabbits over Southeastern Asia for a long time. But anyway, so The trade route goes this way. Why don't we conquer that way? Right? Makes sense. So conquering into Central Asia and gets all the way over here into the Stan region, where all of the Stan countries are, right? So we're talking Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, all of that stuff. And while he's there, he runs into a group of people right about here. And these people are going to be a problem for a lot of folks later on. So we're going to list them here. The UG. These are going to be people that had been pushed out of their homeland by the Xiongnu. So the Xiongnu are, where's my map? Xiongnu are up here. When the Xiongnu consolidate their empire, they push people this way, like the UAG. And as China is expanding, well, guess what? Now they're pushing on the UAG as well. And at this point, Wudi is like, we probably could hold right here because there's also this kingdom of Greco-Bactria, which is right here. And there are some kingdoms down here that are called Indo-Greek kingdoms, which we'll talk about again on next Thursday. So this is sort of the extent of his expansion for this direction. And that's a lot of money coming in. So at that point, Wudi's conquered everybody, right? No, there's one more group. And you know who it is. It's those old Xiongnu. Wudi doesn't really like the idea of continuing to send tribute to the Xiongnu. He doesn't really like the idea of continuing to send daughters up there. He decides, yeah, we're going to go get them. And when he invades the north, it's a different scenario. So he brings this absolutely enormous military into Xiongnu territory, up this way. This sort of region right in here is where the Xiongnu are. Mistakes were made. Well, actually, to begin with, yes, they were. Because the people that Wudi had been fighting so far were not necessarily as organized and were not necessarily fighting with the horseback archers. So initially, Wudi is going to go in with the same sort of mindset of, I can just bring a whole bunch of a whole bunch of infantry. We can just overrun these people. We'll trample them to death, and then we'll take over their territory. But he realized real quick, you can't really use giant masses of infantry against horseback archers because they will kill you. So in the first 2 or 3 battles, the Xiongnu actually put up a really good fight, and Wudi gets kind of ticked off. And what he's going to do is basically completely reorganize the military. He's going to recognize that he's got to incorporate this concept of horseback archery. He's got to bring in more cavalry. He's got to get the noble families to switch from just producing heavy infantry to doing horseback stuff. And now, just to be fair, he already had cavalry, but he expands that contingent a lot. He also adopts some different military leaders that are sort of more familiar with how to fight with these mixed unit tactics. And once he reorganizes, this is bad for the Xiongnu because he moves up into the region and pushes them into Siberia. There are a few big battles. He also has a problem sort of nailing them down because, again, as these big horseback armies, they can just run away and they can gallop off into the distance, and it's really hard to chase these guys. I will kill you. Right, exactly. Diversify the army. Mixed unit tactics are the way to go. Right, so he just decides to beat them up and use their own stuff against them, and he does. The Xiongnu Empire is going to splinter. The centralized rule of the Xiongnu is going to be virtually destroyed. The few leaders that are left literally end up getting scattered up into the Siberia region, up into here. And he's going to claim all of this land, Wudi is. And you go, well, dadgum, how much did this guy end up taking over? And the answer is, everything? So if you remember me showing you, well, actually, this new next map has it on there. So when he took over China, it was this little bit. I don't know if you can actually see that boundary. It was pretty much just this little thing right here. But when he's done, he's going to have added all of this down here, all of this up here, all of this over here, and all of this stuff over in here. Now, the Xiongnu are still going to claim this territory, but I promise you they are not as powerful as they used to be. The threat of the Xiongnu against the Han Dynasty at that point is effectively nil. So few empires, so much time, so much land. Yeah, just take them all over, right? Kill them all. So there was me talking Wudi to you a little bit. Yeah. Hey there. You're looking kind of interesting and full of trade goods tonight. Would be a shame if somebody came in with a giant infantry and just trampled you to death and forced you to pay tribute, wouldn't it? Maybe see it tonight. And amazing, since they don't have modern communication. Correct. All of this is being done by old methods of horseback riders moving people back and forth. I got kind of mafia again. OnlyFans ASMR history talk. Baby, I want to consolidate my empire. Anyway, so this is the big deal. And the Han Dynasty under Wudi is the biggest empire that the world has seen at that time. It is incredibly big. It has millions and millions of people living in it. The amount of money that he had was just crazy levels of money. I'll liberate your freedom. Anyway, I don't even know where I'm going with that. It's just kind of goofy. So you would think, okay, well, great. The Han Dynasty is going to last forever, and these guys are amazing, and nothing is ever going to stop them, right? No. No, because here's the problem. When you expand that much, and you have that much territory, there's just no way you have enough family members to govern all of it. Right? Because remember, the Han Dynasty is trying to keep all of that stuff in the family. I'm at 11. I need you at a 3. You're at here. I need you to come down to about here. So, yeah, things are about to change. This is Wang Chenjun. And interestingly enough, Wang Chenjun is a lady. And she starts off, by the way, she is in power roughly from 71 to about 13. And that 13, by the way, is 1380. If you had enough families, statistically, someone would have to be a jerk and screw it all up. Vern, it's great that you mentioned that because that's exactly what's about to happen. Okay, so Wang Chenjun, first off, not from the Han Dynasty. She was originally an empress, and she was an empress from 48 to 33. And as an empress, she was really influential for her husband. And when her husband dies, well, she orchestrates it so that her son, and there is some dynastic squabbling going on here, her son takes over, and so then she becomes Empress Dowager. So she's like still sort of running things, but from the position behind her son. And then, well, then her son, and this is from 33 to about 7 BC, And then when her son dies, she is still alive and orchestrates one of her nephews coming to power. And this is from about 7 BC to 8 AD. And here's the thing. So she is from a different family than the leading Han dynasty. She married into the family, but when she married into the family, she marries into the Han dynasty, and as empress, she's going to make sure that her family, the Wang family, is going to come out on top. Because here's the thing. When you marry into the Han dynasty, you, as like Wang Qingjun, she became a Han, but her family was still Wang. So they were attached as the sort of the imperial family-in-law, if you will. But you need all these new governors. And if you can't go with your family to fill all the positions, why not go with your family, your wife's family? Yeah. And Wang Jingzheng goes, this is good because I happen to have a big family. So use my family members and use the ones that I pick. And let me make sure that I'm behind the scenes pulling all of the levers and moving all of the little things in order so that my family can get into these positions. If I have a kid, my kid will have to call my brother something else. Right. She's the queen mother. She's basically the Cersei. Kind of, sort of. And no, she wasn't a Harkonnen. But this is very much sort of a Lannister kind of thing going on here. Typical power grab. Well, there we go. And it gets out of her hands. That's the thing. So she is going to use her position first as Empress, then as Empress Dowager, then as Grand Empress Dowager, and she's referred to in history as Grand Empress Dowager. She's going to see this over the reign of 3 different emperors. And as she is doing this, she's pushing her family members into the high-level positions of the government. Haha. Anyway, and she's got this nephew. And, this nephew guy. This guy. He doesn't look harmful. He's a nice-looking guy, right? Well, that's questionable. So his name is Wang Mong. Yeah, I know. That's his name, though. It's not Wang Mang. It's Wang Mong. Is that a ball of yarn on his head? No, that's the fancy hat. It's the fancy hat with the hair covering. Here, I can zoom it in a little bit. So hair covering stuff with the nice little crown looking thing, and this is just to hold it in place. It's running through his hair bun to keep the hat on, but no, that's not his hair there. All right, so Wang Mong, he is the nephew of Grand Empress Dowager Wang Qingjun, and he decides that he sort of wants to be emperor. But here's the thing. He's from the non-Han side of the family. But Auntie Zhengjun is giving out candy and imperial positions. So maybe I can get her to agree with me. And the story here is usually interpreted that Wang Zhengjun is not actually like the Cersei. She's not doing this necessarily as some sort of like evil, manipulative, crazy thing. It's usually interpreted as she was literally just trying to love her family and promote her family. The truth is probably somewhere between the two, because the history of the Grand Empress Dowager is a pretty common story in a lot of Chinese histories. And as we know, just like everybody does, China has manipulated a lot of its history to make certain figures look a lot more sympathetic. So I'm sure that there were some kind of underhanded things. She was a human being, right? But I don't think that she was some sort of Cersei Lannister, completely manipulative, kill her own family kind of person. Anyway, so Wang Mong is going to approach her with this idea and sort of get her on this initial line of agreement, and then using some really deceptive tactics ends up getting her backed into a political position where her only way out is to declare him emperor. And this is going to end the rule of the Han Dynasty for the rest of Wang Mong's life, from 9 AD to about 23 AD. There's going to be an interruption called the Shin Dynasty where he ends up ruling. But the Han Dynasty will return. In the next phase, we will deal with this guy and we will reestablish the Han Dynasty for another 200 years. For another 200 years, these guys are around. All right, so that is the end of my discussion for tonight. Oh yeah, there's always a sequel. That's a great thing about history. That is the great thing about it. It keeps going until we run into today, right? I was talking with KP, Kilted Preacher, about what would happen when I ran into modern history. And my answer was effectively, I don't know what I'm going to do 5 or 6 years from now. Because as we move forward in history, there is just going to be more and more stuff to cover. I already know that our next phase is only going to be 100 years long instead of 200 years long, because there's just too much stuff to cover. All right. So there we go. That was the Han Dynasty. And I hope everybody got some fun ha-has out of that, and got some fun stuff out of it. So if there are any further questions about the Han Dynasty, I would be happy to take them. If anybody has any point redemptions they want to do, any just random topics that they want to bring up, anything in particular that's on your mind. There were goats and virgins, so I think we had fun. If that's the designator of did we have fun. So it's not a Han in a million. No, it's not a Han in a million. Alrighty, ladies and gents. Okay. Anybody have any questions or anything that you want to talk about, ask about, anything like that? Anybody want to redeem anything? Talks about stuff in the news, or well, you can click the adventure point redemption thing, and you can see all of the stuff out there again. You spent all your points on Lord of the Rings stuff. You were thinking about talk Wookiee to me? Nice. Yeah, we can only do one adventure hat per stream. Though I guess if you wanted to redeem the opinion hat, they're the same amount, and designate that it's an adventure hat, I could do another adventure hat. The problem was when I put that on there, the first stream that I put that on there, I had the adventure hat summoned on me 4 different times, and I was like, that's just too much. Because I burned through my stories too quick, and I also got stopped for about 10-minute segments 4 times in the middle, which is fine, but I was like, it needs to be a bit much. So if you want to throw the opinion, another Doom Poop story. I don't know if I have another one like that. I can try to think of another adventure story that involves poop. And oddly enough, Cave, I've already told some good poop stories. You came for the dancing? Hey, Magnificent, welcome. How are you? Too much adventure? Impossible. Preposterous. Okay. Okay. I have thought of a poop story. So, the Han Jive. Right? He came for the dancing, stayed for the explosive diarrhea. All right. In 2010, I think it was 2010. Yeah, I think it was 2010. My wife and I went to Italy, and we flew in to Rome, and we stayed in Rome for a few days, and then later on we took a train up to Florence and then took a train up to Venice and then flew out of Venice. But while we were in Rome, the sort of big central station of Rome is called Termini Station. And Termini Station is an enormous place. It's basically a restaurant pavilion on top of a mall, on top of the hub for all of the subway stuff in Rome. So this place is huge. But down in the sub basements, like under the mall stuff, there are the bathrooms. And so my wife and I had been walking around Rome and had done some stuff for the day, and it came time for a certain action. I had to go. And we got down to the bathroom level, and to get into the bathroom, you had to pay. So they had sliding doors where you literally had to pay €1 to get into the bathroom. And now the bathroom had, like multiple stalls and stuff like that, but you could not literally enter the bathroom until you paid €1. And I'm like, oh, and they only took €1 coins. So you had to have a €1 coin. I had a pocket full of change. Guess what I didn't have? I did not have a €1 coin. I had lots of small change. I had lots of €2 coins. I did not have a €1 coin. And it was becoming a problem. Time was against me. And there was very much a clock upon which I was acting. So I'm like, kind of like asking my wife, like, do you have a €1 coin? And so she's digging around and doesn't. And I'm like, and I don't. And I'm kind of just looking around. And I don't know if this guy was just sort of prescient or what. But a local Italian guy walked up to me and clearly understood that there was a situation unfolding. And he goes, like, I don't know if he knew that I have a little bit of Italian. My wife is much better at Italian than I am. But I'm standing here with a handful of change in front of this thing that's asking for a €1 coin. Yes, a situation emerging. So he looks at me and he's like, and he breaks out a €1 coin and he puts it in my hand, and he takes a €2 coin from me. And I'm like, and then I'm trying to like make change for him. And he's like, and he like gets right behind me and puts the €1 coin in, and the thing slides out, and then we both go through the little slide thing. So I then, of course, shuffled off to the bathroom, and we both got to use the bathroom for a discount. The anguish on my face was universal. That's why you never tell people to blow it out. Yeah. Oh, so yeah, that was that might have been the closest I've ever come to having to go to the bathroom on myself in a foreign country. So, adventure! Oh man, Cave, I hope it was everything you dreamed it could be, my friend. Mirror hey, hey, hey! You came in at the very end, and now you're listening. What did you hear about 1 year coin? It was everything and more. Welcome, Mirror. I was describing the problem of not having a €1 coin and needing a €1 coin to get into a pay bathroom inside Termini Station in Rome. Oh, and now we need to see the puppy. So let me call the puppy. 1 second. All right, the puppy is approaching. Here she comes. Okay, come here. Come and see me. Come on. Oh, there's the puppy. Hello. And she has her Christmas gift. Hey. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, it smells so bad. Oh, it smells so bad. Can I have it? Can I just put it right here for a second? And let the people see you? Oh, you want your toy, though. Oh, my goodness. Oh, sugars. Hello. Hello, Katie. What you doing? You look right here? Look right here. Say, hey. You just want your toy back? Here's your toy. Are you going to run away now because I took it from you? Oh, you've got an itch. Oh, she's so itchy. It's dry. Yeah. I'm gonna walk around behind me. Where are you going? You going away? Are you gonna go by? You gonna go see Brittany? Are you gonna come back and see me again? You wanna lay on your bed? Oh, there's the puppy. Oh, you're back. You wanna come back up here? No. It is a squirrel. Everywhere in the EU have the equivalent of the €1 coin. Yeah. You went to Germany, you only had 4 €20 notes. Oh, goodness. Yeah. So it's not the new chicken. We try to get her a toy for Christmas, and we always assume that she's going to more or less destroy it. And we thought that this would be the destroy toy. And she has managed to destroy the squeaker that's inside of it, but she hasn't ripped it to shreds yet. So, and we, it's like $2 or $3. So we're not really losing a lot of money when she destroys something. But she is currently trying to destroy it. If you can see her, she's kind of going to town trying to kill it. Human, do not put me on camera. But she has quite taken to the squirrel and will literally sit for like minutes at a time, just kind of chewing and chewing and chewing and chewing and chewing on the squirrel to try to destroy it. So, yes, that is the squirrel. Okay. One more thing before we go. Because I think we're about to go do a raid, and I know we're going to go, but I want to show you something first. Yeah. I know I brought it in here. I have a new project, and God, this thing is enormous. So, thanks to a viewer like you, and again, generous donations are, I don't even know how to describe how amazing that is. So I know the initial intent was for it to be anonymous. Most of you probably know who it is, but thank you for our donator. But this guy came in, and this is one of the largest model boxes I have ever seen in my life. It is absolutely ginormous. It's multiple times bigger than my head, and that's saying a lot because my head's huge. Well, this was brought by viewer like you. Many thanks to you, viewer. You know who you are. This is a big honkin' Gundam. It is the full armor Gundam. You can see how nice and big and pretty it is. So, that's what I'm going to be working on pretty soon. We're probably going to have one more stream on the RX-78 Origins model where I put the decals on it and do some panel lining. But that's coming up pretty soon. So keep an eyeball on the Discord if you are interested. I always post before I go live to do anything. I post a lot in other people's kind of promote yourself streams when I do the history stuff, but I only promote the Gundam stuff in my own Discord. So if you want to know when I'm doing Gundam stuff, you have to know when the thing is, or be following. So if you're not following, you might want to follow too. All right. So anything else before we go? Because I know where we're going. Did I find that tiny piece that ever went flying the other day? Fid, if I if I told you how weird it would have looked to watch me look for that tiny little piece, it would probably be one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen in my life. Because again, the piece in question is like maybe this big. And when I cut it out of the runner, it launched itself up into the air and bounced off the wall and then landed somewhere on the floor. And I was like, like down, like looking like this. And I'm a very tall guy, so you can just imagine kind of how much fun that looked like. But anyway, so no, I did not find it. But yes, I did look for it. Alas, it's not an essential part. If it were an essential part, I would have started pulling up I've got some padding here on the floor. I'm in a room that has wooden floors, so to try to keep the echoing down, I have put down some kind of sound dampening mats on the floor. I would have had to pull stuff up if it was an important part, but no. All right, so we're going to go do a raid. It is raid time. If you are so inclined to hang out on the raid, our raid call is adventure. And then you can throw as many of those fancy adventure hats into the chat as possible. We're going to go raid Daria. Daria has started streaming again. Daria is a very good friend of the show. She's done a lot to help me promote my channel. I really appreciate all the stuff that she's done. And she's a good friend. She's a good person. She does great art. She's currently working on a layout for a new Shadowbox piece that she's doing. That's a commission. So give her a follow. Show her some love. We're going to go raid Daria. I will almost certainly be around at some point this weekend working on Gundam stuff. Our next scheduled Adventures in History stream is next Thursday night. We're going to be talking about the Greco-Bactrian and Indo-Greek kingdoms of India and Central Asia. Really interesting people that you probably don't know very much about because they get looked over a lot in history, and I think they're fascinating. So we're going to go raid Daria. Thanks everybody so much for hanging around. I appreciate everybody for all the comments and the hanging out and the good stuff. This has definitely made my day a lot better. And I will see you all around the internets. So thank you very much. Have a good night.
I just need to